We're joined today by Sam Taylor with Rabo AgriFinance and kind of an input specialist. Sam, as we look at kind of the overall supplies in the world and how this invasion of Ukraine by Russia could ultimately impact those supplies, what do we know right now?
Well, what we know at the moment is that the headline figures are of concern. You know, the Belarusia and Russia themselves account for about 40% of global potash exports, and then there's significant export exposure to the Russian market on a broad array of nitrogen and phosphate products. So the headline numbers are a concern for sure.
As we talk about what this means to global shipments, obviously it's a world supply, and if we see those supplies dwindle at all, that has to eventually constrain what's available and push prices at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely to have a lot of pressure on volatility on the market for sure. I think on the potash side, we've held a fairly firm conviction that there is upside price potential, not only because of Russia, but also the sanctions on Belarus. But also, given the bottlenecks and the infrastructure, you'd point to the nitrogen complex as a market of concern. I mean, today we have heard that the pipeline taking ammonia from Russia into the Black Sea is closed. We've also heard ships are concerned about entering not just the Black Sea, but also the Baltic as well. So I think that there's certainly some near-time pressure on the volatility for these markets as well.
As we look out here in the U.S., obviously we've got spring planting seasons coming up. Yeah. That's a pretty key time for most of our growers. What are your thoughts or your concerns as we get ready for that part of our season?
I think a lot of the decisions, a lot of the pricing for the spring season has probably been baked in. You know, growers are going to see that more expensive dynamic. So actually, in many of the ways, we've got to keep an eye onto the next season. You know, I think that this is likely to rumble on for a good period of time. We're likely to have some tit for tat kind of reactions, both from a sanctions and a reactionary standpoint. But there are also some other points which you've got to highlight as a potential appeasement to the market. I mean, our narrative has always been that there's going to be downward pricing pressure on the nitrogen phosphate markets when the Chinese decide to enter the trading market again, and that is still an unknown. So if they come in earlier or later, that's still going to be a market which we've got to factor in as well.
All right, appreciate it. Sam Taylor with Rabo AgriFinance. Thank you so much for being here, giving us a little perspective.